Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz, Shauketaly.
And top of the morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo and broadcasting on TV1. And it's live on Facebook, and a little bit later on it'll be on YouTube. Now then, the talk of the town for several months actually has been that Sri Lanka has entered into something called an FTA, a free trade agreement, and this time around with Singapore. Now then, to explain a little bit on the benefits or the potential benefits of FTAs and how necessary it is in the contemporary history of the world, we have a former Director General of Commerce, attached to the Ministry of Commerce in Sri Lanka. Not only that, he's also been, since then, an advisor to the Commonwealth on precisely the same sort of thing, on trade. And he's right here in the studio this morning. Here's Mr. Gomi Senadhira. Very good morning to you, Mr. Senadhira.
Good morning, Faraz.
Now then, everyone's talking about FTAs and everything else. And there's a lot of negativity. And I'd like to ask you, is there a possibility of an FTA being a good thing?
Yes. If it is negotiated well and with the correct trading partners. Because FTAs is necessary because particularly now as multilateral trade negotiations are not moving very well. The round has not moved forward at all. So most of the countries are entering into either bilateral FTAs or trade agreements at regional levels.
So why is it there's so much of controversy about this particular one?
Even I don't understand.
And we have, Mr. Senadhira, sorry to interrupt you, but we also have, I just thought I'd let you know, article from Thursday the 23rd of August, yesterday, Singapore garbage. Malik's ministry says no basis for Senadhira's claim, as in your claim.
That's right.
What's your claim, and why is the minister not sort of upset with you?
My claim is we have opened import, duty-free import of many tariff lines, which basically garbage or waste, while there is a problem of waste disposal at international level at this particular junction. Because let me quote from Bloomberg.
Right.
And a headline from Bloomberg: China just handed the world a 111 million ton trash problem. World biggest importer is no longer buying. So where are all that trash going to go? Now, what happened was China banned import of garbage from beginning of this year, main tariff lines, large number of tariff lines, and they notified to WTO in July 2017 about this, 6 months in advance. Now, while China banning these lines, the world's largest importer of garbage, Sri Lanka has widely opened them under the Singapore-Sri Lanka FTA.
So what you're saying is China has banned it, but Sri Lanka has permitted it under this agreement with Singapore.
That's right. So now all the countries which are exporting, they are the main exporters of trash are the developed countries like United States, European Union, Japan, but also Singapore. Per capita exports of Singapore is higher than anybody else because Singapore is a per capita use of plastic and polythene is very, very high in Singapore.
Right.
And they generate a lot of waste.
Yeah.
And they export this as well.
Right.
So now where do they export? Most of them export it to China.
Indeed.
Followed by Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia in case of Singapore. Now when China bans imports, Thailand, Malaysia, and Vietnam,
Yeah.
ports got flooded with imports. And they also started to ban it. Not only that, when China banned imports, Chinese went to other countries and tried to relocate their factories in those countries. For example, I have a news item here says a senior official of Thailand's industry ministry confirmed the trend, saying that up to 1,000 Chinese businessmen asking for licenses to do recycling in Thailand. Total investment up to 200 million baht, $7.56 million. Now,
Not a lot of money in the bigger scheme of things.
Not
$7
long.
million.
Okay. Then there's another news item which says Chinese are looking at they are looking at relocate their expertise, equipment, and waste supply chains to Southeast Asia, and they are talking about 10 billion yuan. That is about Singapore dollars 2.1 billion.
Right. Now that's significant.
That is significant. So there are a lot of money. People are ready to invest. Perhaps Hambantota will get some of these.
Yes, I was about to ask you whether there's a possibility that
there's a possibility.
on top of all the controversy, that Hambantota will also become a waste dumping ground.
Now, why I'm worried about, under Singapore Agreement, not only they have given undertaking that they will import it duty-free when others are banning it,
Right.
they also have given undertaking under services
Yeah.
that Singapore can establish, that is commercial presence, in waste disposal services for industries established, not run by the government. Now, this is CPC 9402 in our jargon,
Yeah.
standard product in the trade negotiations language. And this covers things like trash management, disposal services, that is recycling, all that.
Right.
So while Singapore can, under the agreement, Singapore companies they are permitted to come here and establish themselves. Actually, they have been welcome. So I am wondering whether we have already negotiated some agreements.
Well, according to the Deputy Minister, Dr. Harsha De Silva, he says that the agreement is in force, and he says that this is in spite of the president appointing a committee to look into the matter. And so, notwithstanding that, Harsha De Silva says that it is still very much in force.
That's right.
Now then, Mr. Senadhira, I want to ask you this. So FTAs can be good.
Yes.
It has its... Now,
Certainly.
how does it become good?
Well, if you get a balanced FTA,
Yeah.
and in this case, I have seen on the Singapore ministry website that they will benefit from this FTA in goods alone about $10 million a year. I don't know what...
10 million or billion?
10 million. So 10 million, I don't know, when we are talking about 10 million, it's a tariff reduction.
Ah, okay.
So if it is tariff reduction, that is significant, because when we know about our trade promotion budgets in Sri Lanka, 10 million is a huge amount.
It's a huge amount.
And for the trade promotion, tea promotion and all that, 10 million is huge. So I don't know exactly, because I have not gone into details. But as against that, we have not seen much from our ministry, our negotiator side, what the benefits are.
So what do you need to have a good FTA?
Well, we need, as I said, it should be balanced.
It should be balanced.
Balance in almost in all sectors. Like this is not simply an FTA, this is much more comprehensive trade agreement.
Yeah.
And this is called, this includes, so this is more like CEPA, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, essentially. Only in name it's FTA.
Yeah.
Now, the last agreement of this nature we were negotiating with BIMSTEC.
Yeah.
There, the benefits towards final stage of negotiations were almost zero, and because of that we almost abandoned that. As against that, Thailand, because all other countries under BIMSTEC other than Thailand and Myanmar are our trading partners under SAFTA. Thailand alone was getting about $200 million worth of tariff cuts.
Right.
So actually I advised at that time as a Director General against it. And then of course we reduced our imports list, positive import list from Thailand and increased the negative import list and eliminated that tariff benefits for Thailand because we were not getting anything from Thailand.
It sounds as though this is a job for professionals.
It certainly is a job for professionals.
The professional negotiators
Right.
who know the subject.
That's right. Now,
So what is the role of a minister then?
to give strategic leadership.
Strategic leadership.
I'll give you an example. When
You mean political?
yes,
Right. To give political direction.
that's right.
Right.
Because trade negotiations is a job for experts. I'll give you an example. Now, in this news item which you are quoting,
Yeah.
it also says
Yes.
Sri Lanka already has zero duty on these items.
Right.
So the status quo will continue.
Yeah.
So it appears our trade negotiators don't understand because we have zero duty on this thing because this is garbage. But it is not bound. That means we are not undertaking a binding in WTO that
Right.
it will not be changed. And there's a and now what happens is in Singapore FTA we are binding it at zero duty. There's a vast difference between an unbound FTA and a bound FTA. Unbound tariff and a bound tariff. So unbound zero, the value of unbound zero is totally different from bound zero. That only a trade negotiator, a professional trade negotiator would understand.
I see. Just want to remind our viewers that you can send your questions in by SMS to 0772 300 305. And we are in conversation this morning with Mr. Gomi Senadhira, who's the former Director General of Commerce, the Ministry of Commerce, and also Senior Advisor to the Commonwealth on exactly the same matter. Now then, sometimes...
Actually, can I correct that second
Please.
designation?
Yes.
I was the Senior Advisor to Government of Seychelles on Trade Policy and Negotiations as a Commonwealth Advisor.
I see. Thank you very much for that. Now then, Mr. Senadhira, when I looked through the this FTA between Sri Lanka and Singapore, on the I just noticed one item. I just want to pick one item. That item is about radioactive, some form of radioactive waste. That's permitted on the Sri Lankan side, but that code is not on the other side.
Right.
If there's a code missing on one and on the other, what does that mean? Doesn't that suggest an imbalance?
Yes and no, because it is not necessary for both sides to have the same tariff lines.
Right.
So if Singapore thinks differently,
But what about this you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours business?
sort of.
Well, we need that. That's where the balance
no,
comes from.
you know, because you open different items and you have different sensitivities.
Right.
So when you put your sensitive items,
Yeah.
sensitive tariff lines
Yeah.
in the negative list, it's totally a done thing. I mean, basically, Singapore having one in negative list and we are having in positive list is not a serious problem.
Right.
But the problem for me is when world is having a problem with garbage,
Yeah.
trade in garbage, we are opening it up. And here they have said that we have done this under Pakistan FTA, we have done under Indian FTA. Are we going to export Pakistan garbage to Pakistan or India India is going to export to us? Yes. Now, for example, we have done that under Indian FTA. And our second largest export
Yeah.
into India
Yeah.
is waste paper
Right.
under the FTA. Not second largest, one of the largest. But you don't, these are different agreements. So just because you open up in one agreement, it does not mean you open it up in another agreement.
Yeah.
And secondly, trade is a very dynamic area, and things changes. Now, just because we have undertaken a commitment 10 years ago with in some agreement, we shouldn't do the same today, because when the conditions in international trade and the situation in international trade is completely different. And with regard to the garbage particularly, there's a serious crisis, as I said. I read out, and beg your pardon? Internationally.
Right.
You know, we are talking about 111 million
With
tons.
all due respect, Mr. Senadhira, Sri Lanka also has its own problem with disposing of garbage.
Right.
And are we likely to become the garbage dumping ground for South Asia, Singapore included? Is Sri Lanka now going to be the dumping ground for garbage?
No, actually, because now all over the world, people are addressing this issue. So garbage has become not something which you can dump into other people's backyard.
Are we going to end up as Singapore's backyard?
That's a problem, because
Are we really?
According to this agreement, if it is implemented with all these provisions, and if we allow Singaporean companies, now for example, Singaporean and Chinese companies, not Singaporean, Chinese and perhaps even Japanese companies are looking for new places to relocate their factories because of the Chinese ban. And I said that talk about $2 billion Singapore dollars worth of. This is one group of people.
Yes, this is only tariff reductions.
No. These $2 billion Singapore dollars worth of investment.
Right. Okay.
We are talking about this by one company alone, and
so
they are looking for
I just want to get to this. If this is implemented the way it is now, Sri Lanka is likely to be the backyard for Singapore.
Yes, most probably.
And that backyard apparently is going to be in the northwestern province. According to a viewer who's sending this, it says here, according to IFTA, final destination of Singapore garbage is the northwestern province.
I do agree, according to the text it is, but I am also worried now because the Chinese investors are looking for new places, and they have been rejected in Thailand, they have been rejected in Vietnam, and
then they've got a little piece of
and they have got a little piece of land at Hambantota, and you know, like what would happen is that if somebody, these are quite high-tech investments.
Yeah.
If somebody is coming here to invest on a garbage recycling plant, we should welcome it. Why not? I mean, we have a problem.
Indeed.
But that for our garbage, not for Chinese, Singaporean garbage.
Yeah.
Because what we have done here is when people are looking for places to relocate their factories, and there's a great opportunity for us to attract those factories to look after our garbage.
Yeah.
Under this agreement, it also provides for Singaporean garbage to come in. And there's a very difficult under this agreement. This ministry responds to what my claim.
Yes.
I can give a detailed response to this either in openly or unofficial. You know, I don't like to in any forum, but I don't think we have enough time here.
No.
But also, I would like to discuss this in Professor Lakshman's committee. I would like to make a presentation on this because that would be much more confidential. I can go into details in that.
Now then, one of our viewers, two questions from our viewers. What are the arbitration mechanisms in place in case of dispute? And another one, what happens if Sri Lanka reneges on certain aspects of the agreement?
Okay, let's see now. This has again been included in this response by the ministry.
Right.
They say now, what I have said is now China has informed WTO they are going to ban it, and other countries are following, trying to do the same. Now, this was discussed in the appropriate committee, WTO committee. Here is China's notification.
Right.
And I also have Chinese Ministry official announcement about this. Now, this was discussed in the Committee on Technical Barriers to Trade in WTO.
Right.
Because Chinese ban is under WTO regulations. So it was done in WTO. And United States requested China formally to hold the ban. So that means they will go into dispute.
We get more questions. Let's ask you these, perhaps the answer to that. Is it true? You've seen this. Is it true that radioactive waste could be sent to Sri Lanka for disposal?
Directly, no. Under this agreement, even because CPC 9402 exclude certain types of radioactive waste, but it includes certain type of radioactive waste.
Well, in this agreement, it certainly includes certain types of radioactive waste.
Now, let me also read what Chinese ministry said about their ban.
Right.
They said, we found that...
Look, Mr. Senadhira, look, it says here, radioactive, this is HTSL code 28444000. Radioactive elements and isotopes and compounds other than those of the subheading blah blah blah, ceramic products and mixtures containing these elements, isotopes or compounds, radioactive residues. Now, does our Atomic Energy Authority and so on, do we have the systems and the equipment and the expertise to deal with such sensitive matters?
Now, I cannot comment on that because I don't know.
Right.
But I wonder whether before this commitment is given, whether they consulted this thing. They should have, because
they should have consulted
and whether it has been approved by them.
Right. That's the way it should have been done.
That is the way it should be done. I mean, there's no other way. There's no other way.
Right.
And so if they have not consulted, it's totally irresponsible on the side of the trade negotiators.
Right. It's a bit like that the glyphosate business. For example, I don't know, but all I know is that no scientific study seems to have taken place, and on the whim of somebody's dream, they decided to withdraw glyphosate to the detriment of the production of tea in this country and the consequent damage to our exports. But that's another thing. I also another question from a viewer asking about another kind of an agreement, but moving it slightly away from Singapore, is GSP Plus.
Yes.
Now, all these agreements can, according to the viewers, can be good. But what has gone wrong with this FTA with Singapore? Can you pinpoint?
You see, the FTA with Singapore, one problem is I have not seen something other than this potential investment which is coming in under this. Any positive side, because normally when we do a free trade agreement, we should be in a position to immediately, when we conclude it, how much we are going to get benefit.
So does it mean then that the benefits under this FTA are accruing in Singapore as opposed to in Sri Lanka? I'm talking finance.
Financially, it should be balanced, but I can't see any balance in this, only because government is only trying to say that they are getting a lot of investment because of this agreement. So it is up to trade negotiators and the relevant ministry to come and say what they are getting.
In the last minute, shall we take this question here? Basically, do the disadvantages outdo the advantages? And what's the danger of dumping garbage here?
Chinese banned garbage because they found large amount of dirty waste and even hazardous waste are mixed in the solid waste that can be used as raw materials. Mm-hmm. This polluted China's environment seriously. To protect China's environmental interest and people's health, we urgently adjust imported solid waste and forbid the import of solid waste that is highly polluted.
Really, last question. this really is the last question. In the end, is this really what Sri Lanka is being reduced to deal with somebody's garbage, and which may be hazardous, which may be radioactive?
Now, ministry response to my statement, they say I'm wrong, and I'll be the happiest person if I am wrong. But my concern is, as I said, that people are looking for investment in this area to set up factories, and if they do, and if we do not take immediate actions to modify this list of imports under the agreement, we will have to, once we go into arbitration, we will have to pay to our nose.
Mr. Gomi Senadhira, former Director General of Commerce, the Ministry of Commerce, thank you very much for being on Newsline. Now then, I'm going to leave you today with something else that's been in the news, and that is also to do with Singapore and the vexed question of the return of one fugitive former governor of the central bank, ARJUNA Mahendran. And this is how Newsfirst covered it last evening. At the 4th Magistrates Court today, Magistrate Lanka Jayaratna ordered the Attorney General to report at the next hearing on what legal measures have been taken in connection with the extradition to Sri Lanka of ARJUNA Mahendran. Senior Deputy Solicitor General Haripriya Jayasundara explained that ARJUNA Mahendran, the first suspect of the magisterial inquiry, had requested copies of his arrest warrant and evidence against him, and that this request came via Interpol in Singapore. It transpires that ARJUNA Mahendran is in fact resident in Singapore. It is unacceptable that the Attorney General's Department appears to have difficulty in providing Interpol Singapore with details of their case against the fugitive former governor, who is wanted by the 4th Magistrates Court. A simple examination of the case history will reveal that 1. There exists the Presidential Commission of Inquiry report into the bond scam, all 10,000 plus pages. 2. Is there no B report filed in court? 3. There exist several hours of media reports and hundreds of columns of newspaper print that explains in some detail the actions of ARJUNA Mahendran. Let us remember that the Commission of Inquiry report described ARJUNA Mahendran's actions in sharing sensitive and confidential information as mala fide in the interest and to the benefit of Perpetual Treasuries Limited. The question now arises as to why the Attorney General is on an apparent go-slow to supply the information wanted by Singapore. Compliance of this request must easily be elementary. It has been evident that the Attorney General did indeed extend kid-glove treatment to the Prime Minister when he appeared as a witness at the Commission of Inquiry. The same almost flippant treatment was afforded to senior UNP officials and cabinet ministers Kabir Hashim and Malik Samaravikrama. No such kid-glove treatment was extended to the 60-plus other witnesses, or notably to then-Minister Ravi Karunanayake. The Attorney General, Jayanta Jayasuriya, pointedly did not permit Messrs. Dapula Dilivera and Yasanta Kodagoda from questioning either the Prime Minister or Ministers Hashim and Samaravikrama. Instead, the Prime Minister was sent a written questionnaire. A fundamental aspect of cross-examination to elicit facts from the known to the unknown was thus conveniently evaded. Why would the Attorney General act to, in effect, protect the Prime Minister? The Prime Minister confirmed in a statement in Parliament that it was he who insisted on the change in the system of awarding bonds. ARJUNA Mahendran confirmed that he had only acted upon the instructions of the Prime Minister. ARJUNA Mahendran also took responsibility for not informing the primary dealers that an advertised 1 billion would become a take-up of 10 billion. The Attorney General is due for promotion to the highest court in the near future. Is this the reason? Now you say, well, you know, we must let the Attorney General get on with it. But this Attorney General might well become the next another member of the Supreme Court.
No, that
Right. So then we'll find. Let's say that what happens if Ranil Wickremesinghe becomes the head of the country? Is this man who treated the man with kid glove treatment, is he going to actually be part of some prosecution?
No, that is the very reason for us that the Aegis Department has gone into a freeze mode.
Yeah.
The Aegis Department, having got the Bond Commission report,
Yeah.
and having had vibrant officers prosecuting that or representing the Attorney General's Department and helping the Commission to come out with the truth.
Yeah.
Now it has gone into cold storage.
Indeed.
So why it has gone into cold storage is because the Attorney General is supposed to retire when he's 60, that is in a few months' time.
Indeed.
Then there is another opening in the Supreme Court, you can stay till 65.
Yeah.
So all these, you scratch my back, I scratch yours.
And that was the way we covered that very important aspect as to why the Attorney General is delaying in supplying the information required by Interpol Singapore branch. Time and time again we've pointed out that the delays and the departures from due process create more and more corruption and problems for the people, for our country. And that's on that serious note, we'll take your leave this morning. Wish you all the very best for the rest of the week, and take care, and God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.